Have an impromptu talk, you know. So we'll see what happens. But what this is basically, you know, for some of you, and you guys, if you're not, you should attend our mastermind sessions for personal brand. Um, we're trying to build up our personal brand and create some material that can impact people. So this is one of the things. It's like a free PDF that I'm giving out on the website to collect emails. But really, it's kind of the message that I feel is my purpose to spread. And that's, you know, after I wrote the book, The Four Keys, what I learned after that was really impactful, and a lot of it had to do with the manifestation. And it took a long time to kind of link everything together to figure out like what it really meant. But then it became clear, and that's why now I feel like it's my purpose to share it. So I'm hoping that I could get 1 million people to download this. That's the goal. But you guys will be the first, because I know these guys had access to it, but I'm sure they didn't read it. So you guys will be the first to first to hear what's in it. I'll give you the abridged version. It's 20 pages long, but I'm not going to go through all that. But basically, it's called the 10 steps. So another thing is I'm writing a book right now called the Forbidden Handbook. Uh, Essentially, it's this is part of it. So this download is called Notes from the Forbidden Handbook. It's a 10 steps to ascend. But the Forbidden Handbook basically has all these ideas that I'm going to be expressing what I've learned, but also where it's validated or mentioned in like ancient texts and religious texts from powerful leaders in the past, things that all validate what I'm saying to make it come true. And also, it's also showing how this information is being suppressed, like on purpose. So I think it's really important to get it out there. So let's get started. So the 10 steps essentially, it's really to take your life to the next level. But what does that mean? Is to really do your job of why your higher power put you here. And I think regardless on what religion you are, unless you completely don't believe there is something greater than us, it can resonate with you. But especially, if you are religious, like in the book, a lot of these principles are similar across multiple religions. So it works in a lot of different ways. So I mean, I mentioned in this more about like God and things like that, but it could really apply to anything. So the first step is what was that? Mikey. Oh, somebody's trying to stop this. Press it up. Even better. Oh, oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah. All right. So step one is I call it fear of the box. So this is really just the idea for people who want to do this is just people who want more, to who are afraid of being trapped in in a box, essentially. So if you have that desire to want more in life, then that's the first step. Because if you're perfectly content with where you are, then it doesn't matter. You're just gonna live your life the way it is. But if you feel that there's something more, it's true, and but you're awakened to that. So now that's the first thing, to acknowledge that. Acknowledge that that's an important thing. Not everybody wants more. So if you have that desire, then that's different. Um, I think most people here that come to trajectory because we're changing our trajectory want to change. It's not they don't want to just live their life, right? So that's the step one. Um, Step two is this is a big one. I'm sure I'll get like pushback from people when I talk about it, but it's to learn the meaning of life. Um, and the way that I look at this is you have to look at two things. So the first part is the idea of frequency and vibration. So I know there's a lot of woo stuff up there about vibration, but the thing is everything has energy and vibration. And then there is a fact that we crave, and a lot of things crave, to go on a higher vibrational level. So if basically a good way to think about it is your own state. Okay, your own state. When you feel like in a low state, you kind of want to improve it. You don't want to stay in that low state. There's like a requirement to ascend to get to a better level. Okay, so that's the first principle. And then the main thing about the meaning of life is the way I kind of realize this is by looking at it from the end forward. So the end being heaven, where the afterlife, whatever you may believe. But across all the different religious teachings and things that I've researched, it's a very unique or very like there's an underlying tone that's the same for everything, and that's that it's a place of perfection. It's a place of high vibration. It's a place where there's no need, you have no suffering, there's no wants in life. And people who have near-death experiences explain this too. Like they have a feeling of oneness and everything's perfect, right? So that is what most people accept as the afterlife or heaven, the perfection, nirvana. But the problem with that is if you look at any type of vibration, knowing that vibrations go up and down, anything that's a flat line, even if it's perfection, if it's always perfect, then that's death, essentially. That means that there's nothing. It's nothingness. It's stillness. So something that it has complete perfection means that it's not missing anything, right? But obviously, our higher power decided to create something. But the principle is that nothing is created without a need. Nothing is created without a lack. Because think of like inventions. You don't make inventions because there's no need for it. It's to solve some sort of issue. So if everything was perfect, there would be no need to create anything because it's already perfect, right? So the idea is that since our creator wanted to have the universe and have earth, the interesting thing is that there's a lot of religions and teachings that believe that earth is a place of suffering. And some people even say earth is hell. Some of them say that the hell that's described in the Bible is actually being on earth. But what's interesting is that the idea of suffering is an opportunity because if you have perfection, but then now you have some sort of lack, then there is a requirement for you to lift up that energy, which means you need to create. So the idea is that our purpose here is to actually create. If our it's and that's to manifest. So if our creator wanted to create something that would organically grow, to grow on its own, it would need to create entities that actually create. But like, why would they need to create? It's because of suffering, because of lack. So without that, there'd be no need to do that. So essentially, the idea is Earth is a place where we can experience suffering so we can use this power of manifestation and creation to actually create. So I know it might be a little much, but that's hopefully you guys kind of get that idea. Um,
That's deep, but that's something interesting. It's
yeah. So that's kind of the gist. Of course, I go a lot more into it, but the idea is that we are all born with a superpower that people don't realize, and that is that power to create. We're given that power to create by our higher power because that's our purpose is to create. But how we do it and why we do it is based on a plan. So the next part of it is to understand this power. Um, and one thing I want to make clear is that it's not like we are God and we have creation. That's not how it works. What it is that we have the ability to manifest, which means we have the ability to call on to our higher power to provide these things for us. So, of course, in the Bible, many religious teachings ask and that's kind of the principle for this. You're here to experience need, loss, suffering, ask and you'll provide. And in doing that, you will create. You'll create in order to thrive. So now it goes into what I studied in the 4 keys, which is to understand your desires. That's the fourth step, is to understand your desires. Um, so the thing is that, well, let me see. Okay. So there's two sets of desires, which is your spiritual desires and your physical. So this is kind of what unlocked this entire, like, going down the rabbit hole, understanding this concept, because it unraveled a lot of things. Is that we're like two entities in one. And if you guys heard my thing about break the locks, I'm sure I've talked about this, but we have a set of physical desires, which is all DNA based on our survival, things like reproduction, eating, but it's also things like that are passed down to you from your ancestors. It's like the chemical responses, that kind of stuff. What we crave, our physical responses. But then we're all born with spiritual desires. It develops as you get older, but basically you realize that the 4 keys, which is the book I wrote, it's hope, security, value, and connection. And I won't go into super detail on how that came about, but that is a spiritual desires. It's a gift, because you want these things, it leads us to the next step, which is to understand free will. So this is another controversial topic, but basically people think that they have the ability to choose and make decisions on whatever, whatever they want to do, right? But I do computer programming and coding, and there's always been a debate over if there's truly any random numbers. Because in computer science, there isn't any random numbers. It uses some sort of algorithm. Even the ones that are super complicated, like they'll use like the position of the mouse, or what's the weather outside, or something to tie in to get this random number, but it really isn't random. It's just an algorithm. So the idea is that actually there is no random. There is no random. And then there is no free will, actually. But what looks like free will is actually our spiritual desires. That's the gift. Because if we only had a set of physical desires, which is like the need to, you know, reproduce and do all these things, we'll be just like any lower life form, any animal. The difference between animals and us is they act on impulse, like whatever it may be. And people too, people who are not emotionally developed, they act on impulse. Little kids too, before they realize these things, they act on impulse. Whatever that desire is, they just do it. But because you develop these spiritual desires, they sometimes are in line with each other, and sometimes they conflict. So when there's a confliction, now you actually have the ability to make a choice. And that is what free will is. So once you kind of understand that, then you start to see how there is a plan for you, because the next step is to understand your purpose and the reason for your existence. Okay. So the combination of when, and there's a formula that you can actually use to discover what your purpose is. And the purpose is basically when your spiritual desires and your physical desires align together. So that means when you have like stimulation and fulfillment alongside with it, fulfills your true fulfillment, which is your spiritual desires, it's your purpose. And I believe that is what the higher power gave you. That's your gift, because that purpose is what is going to unlock your ability to manifest and create. So the thing is, what that is essentially, and I'll get a little bit more into it later, is when you're clearly aligned with what you believe gives you hope, security, value, and connection, and what stimulates you, you lose the negative energy. So anything that doesn't have the negative energy and a clear path is where you start to be able to start using the manifestation. So the thing is that with our higher power, and I know we talked about purpose, and so the way of like the semantics, right? So really, what I want to use the word purpose is that purpose is the gift that the higher power gave you, like your unique gift that you can use to manifest and create, but your calling is actually how you use it. So in that respect, like your purpose may be to like start a trajectory, right? That's a calling, not a purpose. Your purpose may be a specific way you can help people, but the calling is how you do it. And the calling could change all the time. You have different callings, and it's your job to see those callings and use your purpose to start manifesting.
So you can have multiple callings.
Multiple callings. One major purpose. And your major purpose is more like your gift. Your gift. Then what's the best way that you can create in this world? That's your gift. And then the calling is the different ways you can use that. Yeah. So now the next part I want to talk to is another controversial thing, and then that's decoding. I call it decoding the secrets of reality and how it truly operates. So a good, easy way to look at this is, there's always been these studies about like how much your brain could take in. You know, you like in this room, right? I believe I know what I'm seeing, and I believe I understand what reality is. But the truth is, my brain can only take in maybe like a small percent, maybe 5%, 0.001 of what actually is going on. And the rest of it is filled in by our subconscious, our programming. Yeah, because I mean, there's all these crazy things like there's videos online that it'll make you think you see something and then you rewatch it and you're like, oh shoot, because you're not paying attention to it and your brain just fills in the gaps. It's a real thing. So just by understanding that, and I use the number 90%, but it's actually like Scotty said, it's way more than that, right? But even if it's 90% filled in by your subconscious, that means that 90% of your reality is in here. It's not actually what's out here. So once you understand that concept, then you realize that what you're fueling yourself with really will shape your reality. And reality is subjective, you know? To somebody, something may be horrible. To somebody, something may be great. It's really just what has been the programming. And 90% of that, even what they see in their peripheral, or if they're not paying attention, they think all this stuff's going on, but 90% of it is just from programming. So once you understand that concept, then basically you can understand the reality of what is like true and what is not true. And the answer is there is really no truth. Because, well, just think about it this way. Like, world is flat, right? If thousands of years ago, thousands of years ago, right? Your world is flat. Everybody accepted it. Okay, world is flat. But then now we figure out the world is round. Oh shoot, that's the truth. The truth is the world is round. And it's funny because I always use this analogy, and I say like, well, what if they say scientifically we have discovered the world is an oval. It's not actually round. It's an oval. So does that mean it was less true to us that the world was round? Not at the present time. Now it is, right? Well, but what's funny is that I think I read somewhere that it is actually oval. So I was like, go figure, right? but exactly. But it's all in here. It's all what your own. So that's the thing. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter as long as it's a truth in your mind. And this is a real powerful thing to think about, because like a lot of things, like even time itself is depicted in different ways by different people, different organisms. Like everything, even down to time, is like not a solidified truth of how it actually operates. So, but the thing is that in order for you to make things real, to manifest things, to create things, what has to happen is they have to be truths in your mind. That's what makes something real. Like literally, I don't know if you guys ever see Shallow Hal? The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like to him, it was a truth that all these girls like look like 10 models, but in reality to everybody else, they look like, you know, they're like ones, right? But he didn't care because he said to him it was 100% true. Like, what? Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? But it's like it doesn't matter. Like if I believe that Scotty had a full head of hair and it was but to me it was 100% like I see it every time. I could feel it, I could touch it, it's there. Then whatever, the people say like, oh, he's got a different haircut than that. Like it's like, like, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't see that. That's not my truth, right? So it doesn't matter if everybody says it's true, you know? It's only what's in your brain as a truth. So what a truth is something that your subconscious has removed negative or the energy of uncertainty around. So once there's an energy of uncertainty that's gone, then it becomes a truth. So another example is math. When you first learn 1 + 1 is 2, when you're a little kid, you're like, I don't get it. What's 1 and 1? And then once it becomes like in your subconscious, it's like repetition. I know this. You don't even think about it anymore. You don't question it. Now you could do subtraction. Now you could do multiplication, right? But you couldn't do that until you believed in the arithmetic, right? So it's the same thing. Once you have a truth, and our brains, the way they work, they're like a matrix. So it's like there's an idea and ideas, and it's actually a matrix of energy. So it's ideas, your senses, what the energy that you felt. That's what causes, when you have triggers and things like that, because it's all in your brain, but they all stem off each other. There's like a core belief, and then there's beliefs that tie into that, and there's something else and something else. So one of the things that I know I've mentioned to Scotty, I don't know, who else I told this to, but like Kim Jong Un, one of the things he's done in North Korea to basically try to brainwash the people is to make them question their reality, question their truths. And the way he did it was by taking something fundamental, which was math, and he put the energy of uncertainty around it. And the way he did that is he claimed that mathematics is wrong, that the West has been trying to brainwash you with math, and it's fake because I'll prove it to you. I have 1 drop of water, I take another drop of water, it makes a bigger drop of water, not 2 drops of water. It's a bigger drop of water. So they're like, whoa, you're right. That's crazy. So just because of that, since it's so foundational, everything starts breaking down. You start questioning everything, right? Because that's a fundamental. So one of the things that I say is that if you wanted to destroy, or like if you want to depopulate the planet, all you would really have to do is put the idea of uncertainty around gender. And then that's what's happening. So that's just a kind of a eye-opening thing for truths, right? This is what's your truths and how your brain works. So I want to talk about now, it's the step 8, which is to harness your power and use it. So this is actually how to manifest, and then kind of the idea of what that's all about. So we've gone through a lot of things that is just to kind of understand how this works. But the way you manifest is you align yourself with your purpose. So you find your calling, you align yourself with your purpose. So essentially, if you want to look at the religious context, you are striving to try to do what God has made you to do, to live your purpose, to live why you are here. You're trying to accomplish that. That is by living your purpose and finding your call. To manifest, you just need to actually create truths that align with that goal. So again, if you're looking at math and you're looking at this as a similar thing, linear algebra is your calling, is like you have your purpose and you're trying to find your calling and figure out how to do that. That's like you learning something new like linear algebra. Everything that you put in place that has to be in line to make that happen. Like I have to know 1 + 1, I have to know multiplication. Those things, if you have them become a truth in your mind to solidify without any negative energy, negative uncertainty, that this is exactly what needs to happen for me to reach that purpose, that is how you manifest. So that is all that's really doing is eliminating all the negative energy around that, but tying it in with something positive. Because see, the problem is with most people when they try to achieve a goal or do something, sometimes there's negative energy around reaching that goal. Like some people say, like, "Hey, I want to make $1 million," but in the back of their head, they're like, "Oh man, like that's a lot of taxes," or like, "Oh man, like nobody's gonna like me anymore because I've seen what happened to that guy when he made money. He lost all his friends." You know what I mean? There's this negative energy. But if what you're trying to gain, like instead of it being like, hey, I need to make money, if it's your purpose, then because of our nature, because of how our spiritual desires work, it's purposely there with no negative energy around it if we're living our purpose. So it's easy for us to go on a path that's we believe is the right direction. If we believe in it, it's the right direction, and then put these truths in line and truly believe I need this to reach my goal or serve my purpose and serve my calling, then and it becomes a truth, you can manifest. So another thing also is that this is not the only way to manifest. Manifestation happens a lot. It's just the most repeatable way because one of the number one ways you can manifest is by almost dying. So basically before something tragic happens or you think in your mind the world's going to end, I'm sure somehow you get out of the situation a lot of times. If we're all here, there's probably a time that happened because we're still alive. And essentially that is us manifesting our safety or just what we need to get back into that state, right? I can think of multiple times where I thought like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And then miraculously, it's like, oh wow, this is crazy. Like something just happened, right? Because what manifestation actually is you telling the higher power what you're going to be spiritually grateful for. That's spiritual gratitude. So spiritual gratitude is what brings you hope, security, value, and connection. The ultimate level is actually to actually believe and feel that the higher power provides that for you. Like you get your hope, security, and value connection from the higher power. But if you actually reach this level of spiritual gratitude, then it's like there's nothing in the way for you wanting that because you will be your spiritual gratitude will bring you true fulfillment if that happens. So that's why it's like I don't care about anything. I need this to happen because otherwise I probably will not be here tomorrow. And it's a good way to manifest. And it happens. But the thing is, we don't need to have to always die to manifest, right? Or almost put ourselves in dangerous situations. Well, it's so some people it does, right? But some people it all kind of depends. It all depends on the plan, right? But the thing is that so here's another thing to think about is that almost every major religion have some sort of ritual of prayer. Um, and then in the Bible, the ritual of prayer is to put your hands together, bow your head, and then start with what you're thankful for, and then ask the higher power for what you want, basically, right? And a lot of them kind of operate in that same way. But I honestly believe it's kind of almost like a conspiracy that that we have been told and trained to say thank you from birth for everything. It's just a automatic. It's like I'm not even thankful, but say, oh thanks. Oh thank you. Oh thank you. Thanks. Right? So But the problem is that when these scriptures and these ancient teachings, and multiple of them say that, what you're supposed to be being thankful for is not what current day thankful for is. So what you're supposed to actually do is have gratitude for things that bring you spiritual gratitude, which is things that bring you hope, security, value, and connection. If you can really focus on that, and it's interesting because there are some, I don't know if any of you follow NLP, neuro linguistic programming, or looked into it. So like it's a proven thing that you can do some meditation exercises where you can feel a certain state. Like I've done this with my son when in sports to help him feel confident when he was shooting free throws in basketball. Like you can like picture yourself in like a situation where you feel confident, and then like, oh, like now multiply that feeling by 10. Oh, I feel so confident. And now you do some sort of action. For him, I told him to hit his chest. And then after enough repetition, you could just be normal and you go like this, and then you feel that confidence. It's a real thing, right? So the thing is about spiritual gratitude is what there is. That's the, in my belief, is the highest form of energy, because actually spiritual gratitude is love. When you have spiritual gratitude, the sharing of spiritual gratitude is the act of love. So when you have that spiritual gratitude, it's an energy. You can do the same thing where you have that feeling of energy, that state, that vibrational state. And what's interesting is your every book tells you to put your hands together or do something as a ritual, just like NLP does. You can, if you actually practice showing spiritual gratitude when you do like put your hands together for prayer, you can you can bring up that energy in you and feel that state like you do with NLP. And what happens is when you do that, and now you are grateful, you're saying what you're grateful for, and then you actually ask for what you really need that's in line with your purpose, then essentially, religiously, you could say that you're showing true gratitude and you're saying, hey, this is what I need. Please manifest it. It's in line with what my purpose, and then it'll happen. But scientifically, if the way you want to see it is that you're putting yourself in a high state where there's no negative energy. So your subconscious is in a great place. It doesn't have it doesn't have negative energy. You ask for what you need towards a thing that has more positive energy. Then you're with enough repetition, your subconscious can make that a truth, because all the truth is something in the matrix of ideas in your head that doesn't have the energy of uncertainty. So affirmations, yeah, affirmations are a way to do it, because repetition. So this is the thing with your subconscious programming. There's a few ways you could reprogram, and that's the last step, is to actually implement it. Is that you need to there's either repetition can do it, what I call the tribe effect. The tribe effect is pretty powerful, because that all that is that you're feeding off the energy around the people around you. So for example, if you were to like hang out with a bunch of guys that were skydivers, and all they did was talk about skydiving and jumping out of planes, and they're like, oh, this is fun, this is great, I guarantee you won't have as much of a negative feeling of that as somebody else would. The same as if exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing. It's because as a survival mechanism, we feed off other people's energy. If people are agitated and they're in their flight or flight, we get like, what's going on, right? So whatever's happening in that time, we associate in our subconscious that that's a dangerous thing. But it also works the other way, where this is a comfortable, good thing. With enough people always saying this is a great thing, this is a great thing, then it becomes, that's why it does matter who you hang around with. Like if everybody who hangs around with loves to gamble like all their money away, and they just have a great old time doing that, chances are you'll probably start doing it too, right? It's just the energy. You don't fear it. You don't fear it because there is not that negative energy around it, right? So that's another way. And then the other way to reprogram yourself is extreme events. But we don't want to have to do that. So Zach, extreme. So it goes both ways, positive and negative. So like I always use food poisoning as an example. If you get sushi, you get severely food poisoned. I guarantee you, look at a piece of sushi, you're not going to want to eat it. That's just like even after one time, it could have been your favorite food, and you get severely sick from it. You're not going to want to eat it for a while. It reprogrammed you like that. As a Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool Ranch Doritos. I ate a Cool Ranch Doritos when I was at night, and it was stale. And I turned on the light, and it was covered in ants.
Oh.
So I can't even like eat Cool Ranch Doritos, and that happened like 20 years ago.
It didn't burn the acidity.
Huh?
The acidity ants didn't burn.
I I don't know. It was nasty though. Yeah. but but see that's so you can reprogram yourself because that's the other step to do this is to understand that there are entities and things that are happening that are trying to reprogram you all day all day long. But the real powerful thing is to understand why. Because the thing is, I believe that if you're not creating and manifesting for yourself, you're doing it for someone else. So, and if you understand these concepts and somebody else doesn't, you can easily manipulate them for them to give you the spiritual gratitude and not the higher power. So if you believe like your hope, security, value, and connection comes from your boss or somebody else, right? Then that's going to translate with enough repetition. Now you're feeding that energy there and not where you should be feeding that energy. So I mean, it could become negative, but it doesn't have to be a person. Some people put it in brand. Some people put it in work. They put it in like a luxury, like Louis Vuitton. Like if I wear that, I'm gonna feel important and I'm gonna feel valuable. I'll feel more connected because people will like me, and that's how they get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah. So that's the really important thing to understand that you have to be once you're aware, then you start to notice it. You start to notice like, oh, should I see what they're doing? They're trying to get me to manifest for them. I'm gonna make them rich. I'm gonna give them what they need. You know what I mean? Because you're not using it for yourself. No. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, in that respect, if you find what's in line with your purpose and you know your purpose, I know you're clear on what your purpose is, so that you've already got that down. Now if you could figure out what can go in line with that and remove the negative energy, so that's the part that we're talking about. Because if it's not, if you it feels like it's not authentic to you, or it's not like what you want to do, it's not me, there's that negative stigma of energy. So like just even without looking at any of the higher power stuff, just in your own subconscious, you're gonna want to avoid it because it's not what you want to do, right? It's that it has that like yeah, right.
get it in the hands of the right person.
Like your callings. How do you? You're so many callings for your purpose. Like how do you? Yeah. And actually that's the thing. It's the ability to create a planet that's so full of diversity and different types of things. The idea of free will has to exist, and the idea of free will is what makes us conflict on what our calling should be, like which calling we should handle. That's a confliction. So that's why I say the calling is like us learning something we don't know how to do yet. We don't have a truth around the calling. That's what we're striving for. We're learning how to do linear algebra or calculus or whatever. But then if we can align what we want in between that, then we can manifest it. So I know I gave this example one time. I use this manifestation stuff a lot, and it's worked 100% of the time so far. So that's why I need to like get it out there. But one in particular, I just did it as an experiment because I wanted to show him how it, how it works. Yeah. So I told him, hey, before, like, hey, I'm gonna manifest $100,000 this month, and then I was like, I'm gonna use the process and do it. And I wouldn't like it wasn't like it was supposed like we had something already lined up.
People actually came to us.
People actually came to us and did it. So it's but the way I did it, because this is the thing. Unfortunately, I'm not as bad as Scotty, but but I do a lot of things to help people without trying to make money from them. Yeah, we are just talking about it today. That's why it's funny. I say he's our lead nonprofit activist. But so that's why it's like this is the thing. When you do your purpose exercise and you try to figure out the purpose, there's and I've done it with many people. There are actually people out there where money is actually like part of their DNA. It is not in mine. Okay, so some people just have that, and it's a lot easier for them to have a financial goal and reach a financial goal than somebody who has not. So you have to be a little bit like tricky about it. So, and that's what this whole entire thing was about. So the way I did it, because I did have that negative stigma growing up of like, oh, look at that 25-year-old in a Mercedes. Parents would be like, drug dealer. You don't want to be like that guy. You know what I mean? So it's been in this brain for years and years and years, right? So so like all anytime I made money in business, it was because it wasn't about the money. It was more about completing like solving a problem or like helping somebody and stuff like that. So that's why I made apps and websites because they need a problem solved. They need to make more money. Oh, okay, I'll make a website to do it. And then you get paid, cool. So essentially, the way I did this is I knew what my purpose was, and I knew my purpose is to share this message. It's to share this message about why we're here, why we need to create, why suffering is not the negative thing that's trying to destroy us. Suffering is the opportunity for us to create, and how to actually put that spiritual gratitude back in our higher power, and how to actually show spiritual gratitude to our higher power and make all this work. That's the message. So I knew that's very clear, no negative energy there. So I convinced myself, and it's true, that it would make this easier if I had a story to tell. Most people's story, like in life, life is a video game, money is a score. So that's why I said I have to do something money related so people will listen. So that's why it was a financial goal. So, but you can see how that process worked. Now it wasn't about the money. It was about I need this money so I can fulfill my purpose and get the word out like I'm supposed to. And literally within days, people start walking in. It's crazy stuff. It is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But whether you believe it's God's doing, which I do believe it's God's doing, you're putting yourself in a state of spiritual gratitude, and that's why gratitude journals work so much. But it works even better if you understand what type of stuff to be writing in it. Not just like I'm thankful for this jacket because like people don't have jackets. You know what I mean? It's got to be deeper than that. So you're just really showing that deep gratitude. That puts you in a state that, hey, this is really what I want. And then when you ask for it and it's in line with something that doesn't have negative connotation behind, like, because when I put it in that perspective, there's no more like, oh, money's gonna cause problems. Money's gonna, like, people are gonna, you know, not be my friend because they think I'm too good for them or something. Had nothing to do with any of that. There was a very clear reason for it. I needed to show that it worked so I could do my real purpose. And that's, what you could do. So really it just clears, it makes a straight line. It takes out all the negative energy. And that entire process, that's break the locks. Break the locks is to eliminate the locks and the negative energy from having you on that straight path to being able to create and live your life the way you're supposed to be living. But even if you don't believe in manifestation, or if you don't believe in, higher power, what it's doing is eliminating negative thoughts and putting you on a straight path to where you want to go. But it will tenfold make it more powerful if you do have a higher power to work with, because that's really what it's coming from at the end. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a question I wanted to ask. When you said, there is no reality, or there is, oh. So, would you say the Matrix is real? You believe in the Matrix? Like,
Well, people have been saying, especially these days, that the more we live life, the more it seems like we're in a simulation, right? I honestly believe we are in a matrix, in a simulation, but it's not the way we think. It's not like, I don't think we're batteries for some robot and this kind of thing. But I believe our spiritual selves exist, and we are embodied on this planet to try and create.
it's more of a sense of
Yeah.
it's more of a sense of a life so intricate that it's as precise as DNA. It's not ones and zeros, but more perfect than that in a sense.
Yeah, I just believe that it's a gift to be here. It's a gift to be here, to be able to do what we're meant to do and help create the world around us, right? I mean, we're creating not just by inventing things, we're creating by creating relationships, bonds, ideas. These are all things that the universe needs to grow. Every pebble has a ripple effect. One thing you tell somebody might turn into them telling somebody something, might turn into something huge. You don't even know. But without those opportunities to have creation, without the struggle, without the stress, without the lack, it's very difficult to make anything happen. Yep. Anybody else? Huh? I don't know.
That's a really important question.
The reason being is you brought up an idea that how we place things in our reality. Like we don't.
Oh, those videos.
I pulled it up. The one where where there's a crowd and nobody sees what actually.
Oh, I know. Those are cool.
I pulled it up on
Yeah,
YouTube
we
and
never
if it
got
worked.
it.
We
never
could
got it to work with the phone. It's
Bluetooth
just,
it. Oh,
yeah, the HDMI.
all right. Well, never mind. No, it's like a group of people that are throwing a basketball around,
Was that a gorilla?
and it's got a gorilla,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gorilla, and they're like,
and they're filming it, and then you don't see it, and then it plays in slow motion, and what you don't realize is you're busy watching everybody, and the basketball's being tossed around, that a guy in a black gorilla suit
walks through the whole
it
group
was-
of people
it's
and then
super
exit.
obvious. It's not like it's hidden. It's like right there.
It's-
You know,
yeah.
see it.
Collective attention.
But-
That's
yeah.
specific for that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a big this Corvette sitting on the stage. Everybody sees it. And all of a sudden it's gone. And he's doing like that, touching where it was. And people were like, well, no, I saw it. And I saw something too on The Voice, I think. And the person was real big. She was real big. And after she started talking and everything, she was just like small. Really.
It's like optical illusion.
Yeah, like optical illusion.
You're all, where can I get? Give me one of those.
Anybody else?
All right, I'm getting used to doing this now, so.
Sure.
Very good, okay, anyway.
Yeah. So how many of those jackets do you have?
This one in particular. Quite a few, actually. None of them fit. They're going to next week.
Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
I will go back and rewatch that. That was awesome. That was awesome.
It's got it.
Good job.
He actually, he hit ends.